Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your boy, Matt Diazwell, doing some more album reviews for you. Today, I am checking out the legendary death metal band Deicide with their latest album, Banished by Sin. When you think about American death metal, Deicide is one of those bands that always gets brought up because they're one of the earliest, I guess you could say, death metal bands that really pushed the genre to more mainstream success in the late 80s and the early 90s, and they've been going since then. Their biggest album for I think today, or one of the most talked about, is their album Legion. It really pioneered the style of death metal that a lot of people are playing these days. And Deicide is a band that I've always known by name, but I've never actually fully checked out any of their music. And with this channel, it's always good to find out new music and see what's out there. So I'm really excited I got to check out this band, Deicide. This newest album from Deicide is definitely banished by something because I don't know what exactly is wrong about this album, but majority of what I'm listening to just doesn't sound like top quality death metal. Especially since I've listened to a few tracks from DSI, like their big hits. One of their my favorites, In the Mind of Evil Man. I think it's called In the Mind of Evil Man. Yeah, something like that. From this newest album from Deicide is a very Now, I only know a few tracks from Deicide, and this is my first time fully going into a Deicide album, and it's called this album is definitely banished by something because I don't know exactly what's going on here with Deicide, but it doesn't feel like top quality death metal, especially with their previous record. Banished by Something is probably a better title for this album because I don't know exactly what's going on with this album since it doesn't feel like it lives up to the name of good classic American death metal. Feels like the band just made an album to make an album with no real direction because the album feels very messy and all over the place and doesn't really have a cohesive feel or atmosphere or even like a vision to it. It feels like the songs feel oddly flat and just extremely uninspiring even though they sound really heavy and have a death metal sound to it, but it's like in the worst possible way. It's not very like convincing. It just feels like they're making death metal just to make death metal, and it just sounds so boring. And I think a good example of that is on the song Doomed to Die. Like I said, heavy but flat and uninspiring is like the underlying feeling you get with these songs. That guitar solo just felt so limp and just not very good. I will say that the guitar riffs are very fast and ripping really hard, but they just seem so bland throughout the whole album. And there are some moments where they have some groovy vibes to it, but they kind of get like buried underneath all the boring and bland guitar playing. Weirdly enough, the drums, they're ablaze. They're going fast. They're playing hard. They have that death metal style to it, but it just feels like it's missing that grit and soul of what makes music make you feel something. It doesn't really invoke any positive feelings. It just invokes like, nothing really. Especially on the song "Bury Your Cross with Christ." The drums just feel so uninspiring and just not very good. I don't know. It's a lot. There's a lot in here. I can't pinpoint what is lacking for this album, but here's a clip for you. Maybe it's the production. I don't know. There's like just moments in this album that just don't really sound good with the drums. They have a few good drum fills every once in a while, but most of it just sounds a little bland. I would say the bass and the vocals have a similar problem where, they're kind of like consistent, but they're just so flat and, they don't really switch up their styles that much. They're just doing the same thing over and over and over. So it kind of gets really boring and kind of repetitive and just not very interesting to listen to. It feels like a band that's been going for so long that they kind of fall into their own routine of like, this is what we do, this is how we do it. But more in the lazy way than the more like, yeah, we still have the energy to do this. Just like, yeah, we're still doing it. The biggest problem I have with this album is that the fact that all the songs just kind of bleed into one another and they're all kind of forgettable slash nothing about the songs really stick out. They all just kind of mush together and you have this big death metal album that can be really distinguished. Even when they have really good production on here, like the production is pretty top notch, but the way that everything's being played here, it has a very sterile sound to it. And so, like on the song A Trinity of None, again, it sounds like all the other songs I've played and what I've heard on here, nothing really grabs you. So here's a clip of that. If you switched all the titles out and moved around the songs, I think you couldn't be able to distinguish which song is which because they all sound interchangeable. So I would say with the lack of grit and that older, like dirtier production, I think Deicide has lost some of their charm because they have more of a modern production, but they don't seem to be very innovating with their playing style and just kind of like by the books. And I guess it can be a good and bad thing being a pioneer or a big staple in a genre when it first starts off, because then you kind of get stuck in your ways and you don't really elevate yourself, and it feels like that's what this band is doing with this particular album. Just like the album cover being, I'm pretty sure, AI generated, this album just feels like something trying to be something else, but it just feels wrong in all the ways. Very incomplete, just missing a lot of elements to make what Deicide and what a death metal band should sound like and be like. So I gotta say, this newest album from Deicide, Banished by Sin, I would say it's a pretty light to not the strongest. I would say 5.5 out of 10. Yeah, links down below. Tell me what you think about this album. What other death metal albums I should check out? Recommendations. Always check out this other video over here. And like always, guys, see you in the pit.